So now we are going to have a look at the second category of the strategic communication frameworks. And this is the prepared communication. This is when we have some time on our hands so we can think through our thoughts and structure our thoughts before we present them, before we share them. And the first one in this category that we are going to have a look at is the SMART diaphragm. Now, this reminds me when I was a young professional and I was asked to prepare a brief for a specific presentation. I prepared it and I shared it with my boss. And I was quite happy and pleased with the result of my work. And my boss took a look at it and he scratched out and he restructured the whole thing. And after he had done it, he asked me if I knew the SMART framework. I said, yes, of course, I know SMART framework, but that's for goal setting. And he said, you could use that for drafting your communication as well. That was the first time that I had learned this framework and how to apply that in communication. We will have a look at exactly how we can use this framework for editing or drafting our communication. So this is the SMART framework. And just for a refresher, this SMART is an acronym which stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant. And let's see how we can use the SMART framework for editing an email. Let's say you are writing a mail for your cross-functional leads, and they're always too busy to respond to any of your mails. So in the past, what you have tried to do is be nice and friendly, hello, and very sweet. And this is how you have crafted your request for a budget approval. But obviously, they are too busy and they don't respond back. Let's apply the SMART framework and write an email in a different way. So here is the SMART framework. Request for approval, marketing budget 2024, response date over 20th December. And if you want details, they're at the bottom. Now, you may recall that this is looking like the bluff framework that we learned in the first module. Yes, it is the bluff framework, but how does a SMART apply to this? Let's have a look. So if you look at request for approval, is it relevant? Yes, it is relevant. Specific, marketing budget 2024. So here you are not just saying budget or marketing budget. That's because you are not leaving it to their imagination that because it's coming from Raji, it's going to be a marketing budget. Or is it for this year or is it for the next year? So be very specific. Let them not do any thinking. Just give it to them as it is. Next, response needed, measurable. Yes, there's an outcome which is expected. By when is it time bound? Yes. And let's take a look at another example, that of giving feedback. So now here I've got Rajiv who seems this communication thing, he can't seem to get his head around it. So we need to give him some feedback. Now, it's a sensitive thing, emotional thing for whoever is receiving. And if we were to get a feedback, something like this, then it is not going to help anyone. And Raji probably might not feel even inspired to work on. So let's make it. How can we work? You can say that one thing that you need to improve on for the next performance cycle, or if you want to get promoted, is to use more communication. Suddenly, we have taken our knowledge from the last frameworks and we have used it here using numbers, and we have made it very, very specific. Now, is it relevant? Yes, it is relevant. And it is very specific. And if you add some suggestions to it, what happens is that it becomes that much more easier for the person receiving this feedback, and it becomes very clear to them. So when you give feedback in this, not only does the person have a very clear idea of what is expected of them, what action that they can take, and how are they going to measure the next time around, they can really have a more meaningful discussion or a conversation in the next performance. Not only the way you are perceived as a manager is that someone who cares and has taken time, given it a thought to give the feedback. So not only is it useful for the person receiving the feedback, but it also creates a positive perception about the manager giving them. So how can we practice it? Well, here's a template that I have created for you. And just to make sure that even if the SMART is sounding a little ambiguous in this situation, then this is what is specific when it comes to specific. It's what's required. Measurable, what is output, achievable, the suggestions that you're offering, and actions required, right? So use this for your next 2 or 3 emails, or if you have a heap of copy. So practice it by using it for your next mail or any other communication